Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Plebe the Pro. First, I want to apologize for having taken 5 months, I think, to do an upload. Work has had me about 120, 140 miles from home, and this is the first chance I've had to record. So, what I'm going to be talking about today, if you know what this is, it's RAM. It's random access memory. It is the memory that is the closest to the CPU. It is what the CPU uses to store information that it's going to need very soon, but not at the exact current moment. So it's also where it caches data, and particularly for games, like the map data, information that it's most likely going to need, but it doesn't need at this exact cycle, which a cycle on a computer is a tiny fraction of a second. And to show you the physical location, this is an older desktop board. These here are the RAM slots. I'll pull this board out a couple more times. But the most obvious thing is I've got, yes, these are properly laid out. So I have 4 generations of desktop RAM. I have 3 generations of laptop RAM. The main difference obviously is the physical package size. You occasionally have laptop RAM used on a desktop motherboard. They're weird specific systems usually used for digital signage. So think the menu at McDonald's on those big TVs. That didn't work. But for the most part, these are laptop, these are desktop. As far as the differences between them, there's not a whole lot in reality. So, closest to me is the oldest RAM I have. This is a stick of DDR1. It's server memory, which I'll get into in a second. Then I have DDR2, or actually DDR1 is probably early 2000s. Yeah, that sounds about right. DDR2 is the late 2000s, so roughly between about 2005 2010. DDR3 is about 2010 2015. DDR4 is the current fastest on the market. They're starting to talk about DDR5, which, yes, it is very similar to the DDR5 on the GDDR5 on graphics cards. There's generally some relation. Graphics cards are always a few years ahead, or in this case, closer to a decade ahead. But I'm not really going to talk about the graphics card RAM because you don't get a lot of choice with that. As far as the RAM I have in front of me, there is a very distinct reason why I have so many sticks of DDR2 on the table. I'll get into that later. If you notice, the DDR4 and the DDR3 for the desktop, they have heat sinks. There's been some testing. There's no real reason for it other than the fact that it looks cool. Because given the choice between, let's get it in frame, these 2 sticks of RAM, which would you rather see in your computer? Plain Jane green or really cool red aluminum? And that's just kind of how the market is right now. You can still get the plain stuff, but there's no real reason to. There's no real reason to fight for it unless you're trying to make it match something. Because honestly, I found that the heatsink RAM is frequently the same price or cheaper than the plain. Excuse me. As far as why I'm doing this, a friend got a bunch of old computer parts from work. That's actually where I got this RAM, and the board I showed you guys a second ago. He picked up some old components from work they were throwing away, and he saw this stick, which on the tag it says 32MX8. He thought that was 32 gigs of RAM, so he was thinking, I don't need 2 32 gig sticks in a dual socket motherboard. In reality, it's 512 megs of DDR1, and it's not compatible with any of the systems that are running. But that made me realize that a lot of people don't realize the difference in RAM. RAM is matched to the processor and the motherboard, primarily the motherboard, because right around the time a new RAM is coming out, you occasionally have a few motherboards that will support either the last generation or the new generation. Those boards are not usually easy to get a hold of because you have a lot of people who are going for them, as RAM can give you a massive performance boost, or it can do absolutely nothing, depending on what you're trying to fix. As far as the different RAMs go, newer, faster, and bigger are always better. There's a joke there, I'm not going to say anything. But at the same time, in my personal opinion, it's always better to have a larger stick than try to go for multi-channel, at least in anything current. What multi-channel does, I need a prop for this. So this board, if you notice the RAM slots, you have 2 blue, 2 black. This board is most likely dual channel. So what that means is, if you have 2 similar enough sticks of RAM in the right channel, and I actually think I have these, yeah, these are backwards, but not the point. So if you have 2 sticks of RAM in a slot, what it does is it allows the computer to use both sticks as 1 stick of RAM. So in dual channel mode, this computer would see a single stick of 4 gig at a much higher speed than the 667 it is. And that 667 is megahertz, that is a speed rating. Just like processors are rated in gigahertz, RAM is rated in megahertz. DDR3 and DDR4 are actually in the gigahertz range. But for reasons I don't know, nobody uses gigahertz. As far as that goes, it sounds like multi-channel is an amazing thing. It should be used whenever possible. DDR2, DDR1, absolutely, I completely agree. The RAM is slow enough that using multi-channel is a huge benefit. With DDR3 and 4, you don't really get a benefit. As far as gaming goes, which is where most of the benchmarks I've seen are, you're talking maybe 1% performance improvement for using multi-channel RAM. It's just not worth the effort. It's better to get a single larger stick or fewer larger sticks, so you get more RAM and you have the ability to upgrade later. Whereas, well, I have the same amount of RAM in each hand. This is 4 sticks, which will fully populate most higher end motherboards. They'll actually overpopulate smaller or lower end boards. A single stick will fit in any computer that accepts RAM sticks. So it's better to go for a single larger stick in current generations, just because there's no real advantage to multi-channel. I keep saying multi-channel instead of dual channel because some, like the Intel X, I think they're on X99 now, which is the Socket 2011 V3, or AMD's Threadripper. I believe they all support at least triple channel, if not quadruple channel. So that would be a crap load more RAM spread out more. You're still not going to get a huge performance boost, but they support it. So it's just not necessarily worth multi-channel. But RAM's primary job is, like I said earlier, working memory. It's things that the computer is using right now, or will be using very soon, or has just finished using, that hasn't committed to a hard drive or an SSD yet. Because even the fastest SSDs on the market, which are NVMe or Optane, are still a fraction of the speed of RAM. As far as RAM goes, you always need to make sure you're using the right kind. DDR3, DDR3 board. DDR4, DDR4 board. Trying to get DDR1, so like this server memory, sticking into a board that's designed for this, you will screw something up. And let's see if this is going to work. I don't know how well it's coming across on the camera, but if you notice the contacts down at the bottom, the gold colored things, there's a huge difference between the 2 sticks. That is one of the issues, as well as the voltage. So DDR4 is running at 1.2 volts. DDR1 is operating at like 2.5 to 4 volts. So if you try to plug DDR1 into a DDR4 slot, it's just not going to pull any power. It's not going to get enough power. try to plug DDR4 into a DDR1 slot, you're going to blow up your expensive stick of RAM. Basically with RAM, more is better, faster is better, and the right generation. Now there are certain times AMD's platform, it works better with certain brands. Don't know why, but overall, if it fits, it works. I think that's it for this video. I do plan to continue working on not Porta VR, Plebe Pro. I'm working on the benchmarks, they're just taking a lot of time. And you guys are probably going to see 2 or 3 videos in the next 2 or 3 days from me. As soon as I finish recording this, I'm going to record the next one, and I may be doing a 3rd one, I'm not sure yet. As always, like, subscribe, let me know if I can do anything better, let me know if you disagree with something. And if you have any suggestions or questions, please put them in the comments. I will respond as quickly as possible. If I feel like it's worth a video, then I will most likely say I will do a video about this in the upcoming future, depending on where I am in the series and what the question is. Talk to you guys later.